Hey, Composing Gloves here, and today we're going to be talking about writing second and sevenths apart again, only this time we're going to be covering an example down here. I'm actually going to write one with you. I'm actually going to erase a lot of this, and we're just going to write another one because I just want you to have an example of how I do it, how I go through it, because when you're handed this in a class or in a test, or you want to skip a class or whatever, you are not going to be able to rely on playback from MuseScore to do these things. They are just going to expect you to be able to do it. They'll give you a thing and they'll say, do it in these keys, and you will not hear a single note of what you're writing down. You're expected to sort of have an internal compass to work with. So given that, we are going to be taking a look. So here's my example of what I came up with, and hopefully you got through this section. Shouldn't have been too bad. And you can see here, I follow the rules of using 3 examples, and it's okay. You can listen to it. We're sort of selecting chords to complete the exercise. We'll talk about what chords later on. This is what I got. So you see, there's a couple parts that are pretty clunky. I quite actually, of my favorite thing in this whole progression, if I were to take away something that was like, that sounds cool, this measure right here is probably my favorite measure. That's nice. I dig it. So you can go through here, look at this. I said I did both in C major, and then I looked at my answer, and I totally did one in F major. So I'll do another, let's do another example right now. Let's go ahead. Let's add a couple measures. So to add measures, you go up to here to add measures, and you go append measures, and we're going to add on 4 additional measures, and we're going to move it to a new key. Or not a new key. Well, yeah, it's going to be a new key, but we're also going to break it. So let's go ahead. Let's put a break in. Okay. And then we've got these 4 measures, right? Let's redo that progression. So here we go. We've got our progression here, and delete the text. Maybe I'll add on text at the end. So we want to keep those the same. Our bass notes are going to stay the same bass notes, right? Because we've already got our chord progression. So all we need to do now is fill in the upper voices. And that's what we're going to do. So let's say you've picked your chords. You've written down the roots of the chords, because this has to be your bass part. And so now you're ready to move on. Let's go ahead. Let's add some text here. This is like, for maybe someone for some reason skip this video. We'll put example covered in answer video. Okay. And let's do this, right? Let's have some fun. So, okay, we've got C, E, G, right? And we know it's good habit to have double our roots. So I'll put a C here, and I'll put an E here and a G here. I know there's keyboard shortcuts for this, but they're kind of awkward. I really should just rewrite them. Okay, so we've got C, E, G. There we go. Got our chord. Nothing wrong with it so far. So we're going to go up a second. And so I think back to the second and seventh part writing rules, they've all got to move and just generally keep it smooth. So if I move this up to a D, I'll wind up with parallel octaves, right? So I'll move this down instead. So I know I have D, F, A. So the nearest tone would be an A, right? So I'll put an A there. And I say, well, this G, this could go up to an A. That's no big deal. And let's really quick look at this. This is C to G, D to A. So we can't go up to an A. If I go up to an A, I'll wind up with parallel fifths between my bass and my soprano. So I don't want that. So we have D. I'll go down to an F. That's pretty smooth too. And then the E, we could move that to a D. I'm really sorry about the mouth noises. I should drink some water or something. So there we go. Let's see here. Any octaves, anything that's a fifth has been resolved. So the rest of it should be okay. I'm just going down my list. We talked about that list in the parallel motion movement. Wow, whatever the heck that means. In the parallel motion video, we talked about a checklist. So I only need to check my octaves. And so my octaves check out now. We clean those up. And then my root C. So I just need to worry about anything that's got a G. So anything I do with this voice pretty much should be safe, because it's not in any sort of dangerous position. So, okay, we got our first part down. I'm not going to play it yet because let's simulate what it would be like in a test, right? It's kind of cheating. We can even hear the tones because then you got to watch out for your accidentals, things that your ear will cue you in on. No cues in a test. So we say, okay, we've got our a 5 progression now, right? So we're going from a 2 chord to a 5 chord. So that's the movement by a fourth. And so we think back to our fourth rules, and you could keep going back to the rules and stuff. You memorize all the rules, good for you. But later on, you're going to be throwing situations that are just going to get crazy. So I always fall back on just keep it smooth, unless I have some sort of a vision I'm going for, right? And in this case, I'm just sort of filling in my chords. Maybe I'm creating a sketch to make a grander vision from or something. It's a good exercise. So I say, okay, this has got to be GBD, and this is DFA. And so I know this A going to the B probably is a pretty good idea. Whoops, I keep forgetting this should be voice 1. And we have DFA, and I went down. I could keep the F the same. That's pretty smooth. I want to be cautious though, like what my melodies should have a focal point. And probably going to want to go above a G. So we'll keep that in mind, the back of our mind. And a D, the D is pretty similar. So we say, okay, kept 2 common tones, G, B, D. So we kept these the same. G, B, D. I don't know what the heck I was thinking. Let's go up to a G. There's no F in G major. What am I saying? So there we go. Classic, think there's a note in the chord that doesn't actually exist in that chord moment. And then you could just say, oh, well, I'm writing, being hip. So, okay. We have a repeated root, so I'm allowed to arpeggiate things. So this is a chance for me to maybe get my focal point out here. So let's, the heck. Some people write out their whole melody first. I do that sometimes. If you're writing a melodic piece, it makes sense. So we'll go up to a B. What the heck? We'll arpeggiate that, and we'll keep the other voices the same. Whoops. That should be on, it should be stem downward. And, oh man, it pisses me off how it moves around so much. I went on the forums to see if there was a way to turn off auto advance, and I don't think there is. And there needs to be an option eventually. Unless someone knows of one that already exists, and I just haven't found it, because maybe that's the case. Okay, so keep the rest the same, oblique motion. We're totally cool here. Give ourselves some room. So now we're going down here. We've got another second movement. So I think, okay, a second movement. Let's see here. So this is FAC. So I'll probably move this up. In this case, do I have a repeated root? This would be G. I don't. So I've got to make it smooth. I got to be careful about this, right? Be careful. So we say FAC. All right, let's move this up. If I move this up to a C, it's contrary to my bass, and it's stepwise. So I'm fine. That was a weird way to say fine. And then we have, okay, F. It's not even the right. I'm not even seeing that pitch. I don't know where that came from. F, we need an A, right? I say this is a D. Do I want to leap to an A, or do I just want to omit a tone? Well, if I omit a tone, it'd probably have to be the 5th. So it wouldn't, because we need to know that this is a major chord, right? So I need an A. I need one of those for shizzle. F, A. So I could put it up here, and that's a pretty big leap. We could leap down. Let's leap down. So, but we're outside of our, this is over an octave, right? So we can't do that. So I'm constrained. If I choose to do this, I'm constrained to move up. And I think, well, this is my 5 too. So, see, it's interesting. See, I think of all this stuff's going on. It's a good thing we're doing this. So I say this is a B, right? And you might be going, why don't you just move that down? Well, this is a 7. This is my leading tone. So it has to go up to a C. I can't not do that. It's in the soprano voice. It's got to do that. So I'm constrained to have a leap like this. Now, if I have a leap like this, I should be looking for stepwise resolution downward. Generally speaking, that's what we want to do. So let's go ahead. Let's try and fill this out. I've got some wiggle room here with my C now. So I'm on a D minor chord here because it's a 2 chord. So I think, all right, so I have D, F, A. Well, I can't keep the same. I could do a leap down. It doesn't really. So now we're like, we're kind of being put in a rough place here. Maybe you'll go back, look at a another possible voicing. Maybe moving my soprano line up here wasn't the greatest idea. So I think, okay, well, if I don't go up to a B, I could do this instead. This would be okay. I could leap above. Now it's above a perfect fourth. I could go to a D, and I resolve downward, right? So I could do that. And if I do that, that frees up this voice. So let's see here. I've got a D. So I've got a G, B, and a D. So this one no longer needs to remain on a D, right? I'm going to arpeggiate it differently. Maybe I do that instead. I don't know. And so I said F, and we need an A, C. This is a little bit smoother. This is actually, what am I saying? This is a huge leap. So not smoother, but it opens up some voicing options that are a little bit better for what I want to do here. So I say, okay, F, we have an A, we've got a C, we've got a C. We want to go to D, F, A, right? And I've avoided that leap. So I'm no longer, the whole point of doing this was now this voice is free to move around. I am not constrained to resolve it stepwise downward because of a leaping problem. But we did introduce a leap here. So we have D to G, which is the fifth. So typically this should go down. So let's see if that will work out. So we have F, we need an A and a C. So we've got a C and we've got a F, we've got another C. So this would have to go down to a C. If that's an F, we need a fifth, so we could just move this down to an A. And so we've got that accounted for. So, and this is kind of nice. Look at this. We've got repeat, and it goes down. But now we've got this G to D and this F to C. This thing is just turning into a mess. So let's go ahead and look at another possible voicing. So we have F. We can keep this in A. Well, let's move this up to a B. I think that takes care of it. Okay. Wow. Okay. Anyways, there's the process. There we go. So we've taken care of the technical details. And now let's move on. So, okay. There we go. We got that. So now we say, okay, a 2-chord DFA. And now we should be pretty much clear. We've avoided the leaps, as we can see here. We have a G, a B, and a G and a B. So we've omitted our fifth here. That's sort of the resolution we came to. Omitting the fifth here gives us the most freedom over here because it puts our chords, we don't have these constrained movements. We follow the 7-1 here. We're good. All right. So there you have it. Don't panic, right? So now we have DFA. D. And so we could keep the A the same. Let's do that. Let's keep the A the same. This could go up to a D. That's going to be our focal point. This actually is pretty high. If you ever hear a singer actually go up that high, it's not unfairly high. If you go up to an F, that's like you generally want to have a reason. If you go up to a G, you better have a reason. So there's a cool piece that we were looking at by Schubert that he does that, but he's got a good reason. He actually uses it at the most impactful moment of his piece. It's Gretchen a la Spinrad, or it's got this whole story behind it. I'm not even sure if I said it right, but someone who knew the piece would be able to recognize it from that name. So, okay, we have D, F. We keep the F the same. There's no reason to do that. So we've got, and this is a movement of a third down. So we should have 2 common tones. So there's our 2 common tones. And we've got our D and a D up here. Let's make sure we're not doing anything illegal here. And it seems to check out. So, okay, moving on over. We have another movement of a third, which means we should have 2 more common tones again, which would be the D. But our bass has to move. So we should have at least 1 common tone, though. The D again. But then that takes away our second we'd have no focal point. So that'd be a problem melodically. So let's go ahead. Let's consider, we know our notes are B, D, F. And I generally don't want to put the soprano in the position where they have to sing an F. So B, D. So let's sync here. So we have D. If we go up to the F, that's pretty large. So a jump down to B is probably a better choice. And then if I do that, if we're going to have consecutive small leaps, it'd be wise to move it down to a G. But this is, now we haven't talked about this, but going up to a C here would be okay because this plays a dominant function. Well, actually, we'll talk about it in one of the last videos of this course. So we'll talk about it a little bit. But because this has dominant function, this is actually an okay thing. And then let's see here. So we know we need B. We need a D. Now, if I leave that one down, oh no, that's an F. That's common tone. Keep the common tones, right? And then we have another B. What the heck? We'll double the third. But then we say, well, we've left out the D. We can't really do that here, right? Because we need to know this is a diminished chord. And with B, B, F, B, actually the fifth is the thing that indicates that. So I think actually we are okay. But if, we wanted to be rigid, we could move this up to a D. But I'm going to leave it here because the thing that indicates this is the fifth in a major key. So we're okay here. And we're going to the 1. So this could resolve up to a C. This could resolve down to an E. And we would satisfy it. We'd have an omitted fifth. So perhaps if we move that up, we would definitely have an omitted fifth then. We could move it down. I don't know. You know what? This is okay. Let's not go crazy about it. Now let's check though. Let's check to make sure we're okay here. B, B, and they both go up to a C. So there's a problem. We can't have that. I could have spotted that earlier. That would have changed things. So if I go down to a B here, going up to a C. Now, there's actually a lot of counterexamples where things like this happen because this actually has a second thing, the relationship here. Because it sounds like that sounds fine. Like there's nothing crazy sounding here. Even though we have a parallel motion, it's almost excusable because of the role it's playing. There's a larger thing at work here. And you'll see more of that later. But if we were to play what we have now. And it's actually, that sounds nice. If we were to come over here though, we would get on a test. Let's put ourselves in the position of we're trying to get out of this class. Obviously, we're not that concerned about writing amazing sounding music. We're more concerned about the mechanics of it. So we look at this and we say, mechanically speaking, academically speaking, this is not okay. So I say, okay, I'll fix it. So we say, let's see here. Well, we can go from B to G, and that would fix the parallel motion there. And we outline a triad, but now we have frustrated this voice, meaning this voice wants to go somewhere, and now it's mad because it can't go there. So this really should go to a B. So if we're going to change this, we really ought to change this as well. And so we could put an F here. Yeah, this would be like, this is pretty high, right? D, F. We could go to an E. Ending on an E, though, is like... ending on an E. It's... let's see here. Let's check our outer voices first. We have a D over here to a D. That's an octave. And our voice leaps, but it's contrary motion. So we're actually fine there. And they leap to form a B to an F. So we're fine. So we could settle with this. There's just the endings like this when we're worrying about so much stuff gets a little crazy. The first thing I showed you is the one I'd probably settle on. But if we wanted to be like completely rigid about it, we end up with an open chord and an omitted fifth, which is fine. There's lots of examples where things like this have caused composers to end up, with 3 roots. And so we've doubled our third here. You know what, though? This parallel octave, we can't have that. We could leap down. It's a leap of a fourth, so this is fine. We end up with a C. This is a more preferred resolution. Yeah, so you look at that. That looked funny. So let's check it. We've got C. There is B, and there's an F. So if either of these voices form another fifth here, we've got C, C, C though. So it's all roots. So we're fine. No fifths are occurring. And but we've got another F here. Oh, but we don't need to worry because everything else goes to a C. So it's fifths by contrary, which is fine. So there we go. Holy crap. Now let's see if it sounds any better. Let's give it a listen. Do I have like a wrong note in here? It just sounds. Now let's see here, B, D, F. Let's see if we can include a D instead. Well, if we make this a D, we can make that our focal point, and we could come over here and we could say, let's change something about this D. So we have DFA. Can we move this down to an A? Is that okay? Because then this would be a focal point, and I think it would sound better, a lot better. Because now we have a third B, D, F. So we have B, D, F. So we've got all our members. And here we've got a D, F, A. And we've got a leap down. But this should be fine. Because the other two voices are static. And we have an A and an F down to a D and an A. So that's also fine. So here we go. That's a lot better. We need that extra voice. So there you have it. There's some examples. If I made a mistake somewhere, there's a lot of thinking going on. Point it out. Let me have it, whatever. But overall, that's pretty much the process when you're sitting down writing. You got to think about what is the instructor looking for and stuff. And if you can do this when you're actually writing music that you actually care about how it sounds, because here we care about how it sounds. That's why we're doing all these rules, but we're not sitting down and writing like a deliberate piece of music. This is just an exercise. So if you felt a little overwhelmed, like this isn't music anymore, this is something else. This is so stressful worrying about all these extra rules and things. But in reality, it's just an exercise. When you write music, you think of these things and it comes in handy. That's the point of doing the exercise. It's like applied maths versus pure maths. One you do simply because it's a fun challenge and it's like the ideal pursuit. So this is like we're messing with the pure system. That is the idea of music. You'll always wind up with something that sounds this way if you follow these rules. So that's sort of a little bit behind it. I know if you're not that quick at building chords and stuff, it can be quite frustrating, especially if you're in a key you're not very comfortable with. So this is a key I'm hoping you're very comfortable with. But you're not going to stay that way for very long. And as we add things like the ability to use inversions, a lot of doors open up. You can say things like, oh, this is just a pedaled bass, or you'd have to do it on purpose, but there are things that would allow you to have more non-chord tones. It sounds a lot more musical when we start adding in non-chord tones, because then your melodies flow way better, your bass lines make more sense, things of that nature. Anyways, that's that. There we have it. It's a beautiful work of art. We're making $1 million, right? If you have any questions about this, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day.